Good morning. We're at Burgate. We're back in Canterbury, and this time we're going to see the cathedral that we missed on the last trip. So if you didn't see the last video with all of the different attractions that we've already covered, all the lovely old buildings, then maybe go and watch that first and then come back and join us for our tour of the cathedral. And at the very end, something very special, we're going to St Martin's Church. We didn't see that last time either, so enjoy. Canterbury Cathedral is in the heart of the walled city, accessed via the visitor centre on Butter Market to the right of Christ Church Gate, shrouded in scaffolding during our visit. Your ticket will give you access to the cathedral and the precinct, the grounds around this cathedral. We spoke of St Augustine in the last video. In 597 AD, he arrived in Kent from Rome, having been sent by Pope Gregory I, tasked with converting pagan Britain to Christianity. Having swayed the local king Ethelbert, Augustine and his monks were given land outside the city walls to set up an abbey and also a church, St Martin's, now the oldest church in England still in use. We'll see more of this later. Augustine became the first archbishop and established his seat within the city walls, building a cathedral. The current cathedral was built between 1070 and 1077 by the Normans following a major fire. Much larger and grander than before, Augustine's original foundations were found and lie under the nave. Let's enter the cathedral and start our walk in the nave. The nave is over 600 years old, designed by Henry Eveley. The vault is 26.5 metres, 82 feet high. At the west end is a huge window, slightly obscured today, filled with stained glass, much of which is over 800 years old. On the north side of the nave is a beautiful 17th century marble font that not long after completion was broken up during the English Civil War. William Somner collected all the pieces, held on to them, and when the crown was restored, so was the wonderful font. Much of the nave ceiling is covered presently for the finishing touches of restoration to be revealed later in 2022. Climbing the worn and shiny stone steps, we reach the Pulpitum crossing. In front of us is a stone screen with intricately carved royal statues. Before the Civil War, this would have been the site of the 12 Apostles, but they were destroyed. Look straight up inside the Bell Harry Tower and the wonderful detail here. This tower was one of the last major additions to the cathedral in the late 1400s. Seen here from outside, it's actually made from nearly 500,000 bricks and only faced with stone. The Archbishop Thomas Becket was famously and brutally murdered by knights of King Henry II in 1170. Heading to the martyrdom, a modern altar and sculpture marks the spot where the savage killing occurred. Opposite the memorial is the door from the cloisters where the knights entered the cathedral. The Pope made Becket a saint within 3 years, and miracles are said to have occurred here. Canterbury became one of the great pilgrimage centres of medieval Europe, and shaped the city and the cathedral for centuries to come. Heading to the crypt, the oldest remaining part of the cathedral, Romanesque in style, it was here Becket's body was taken, laid to rest the next day. A recent sculpture by Anthony Gormley, made from iron nails from the roof, outlines a floating body above the site of St. Thomas's first tomb. The choir is over 800 years old, rebuilt in 1174 following a terrible fire, and was the first building in Britain to have a Gothic style. Its French architect William of Sens fell from scaffolding when inspecting the blue central roof boss. The building work was finished by his young assistant, who was known as William the Englishman. The choir stalls are dark wood from the Victorian period. In the distance is the high altar leading to Trinity Chapel. Notice the Archbishop's chair, known as St. Augustine's chair. Trinity Chapel was badly damaged in the fire and rebuilt larger and wider to accommodate the pilgrims travelling to the shrine of St. Thomas of Canterbury, as he was also known in the Middle Ages. In 1220, his shrine was moved from the crypt directly below here into Trinity Chapel, with the ever-burning candle marking the spot. The shrine would have been marble, upon it the golden casket in which Becket's remains had been moved to. Pilgrims described it as one of the most richly decorated and bejewelled shrines in all of Europe. Above it, a wooden box which was lowered and locked when the shrine was not in use to prevent thefts. Nothing remains today, as Henry VIII declared Becket a traitor to his king, having the jewelled shrine removed and Becket's bones burnt. A large ruby was kept by Henry, worn on a thumb ring. Other notable burials in the chapel include Edward of Woodstock, the Black Prince as he was known, and the only king buried here, Henry VII, and his wife, Joan of Navarre. You can step up to look over their tomb. The Corona Chapel was a sacred part of the cathedral, almost circular, known now as the Chapel of Saints and Martyrs of our time. From outside, Becket's Crown, as it was named, was an 18th century addition. Pilgrims would come here from 1220 to pray at the shrine of Becket's Crown, a fragment of his skull preserved following his murder. The cathedral has other treasure on display, from goblets and chalices, but the star find was in 1938, when an excavation of the Great Cloisters unearthed a 10th century personal sundial, probably used by a monk. Now let's take a look around some of the precinct, the grounds around the cathedral. They are part of the UNESCO World Heritage Site. Many visitors seem to miss exploring these parts of the cathedral and are well worth a stroll, and they have stories to tell. The Canterbury War Horse reminds us of the 8 million horses that died in the First World War, representing conflict and loss of human and animal life. Passing through what's called the Dark Entry, we arrive at Green Court, in the vicinity of the King's School. Head over to the north corner and the Norman Staircase. Built in 1100 by the Normans, it's the oldest structure in the precinct. The staircase was part of the Poor Pilgrims' Hall that served as a shelter for pilgrims. Today it's part of the King's School. Heading back towards the cathedral, on our way to the Great Cloisters, we notice a water tower. Dating back to the 12th century, Prior Wilbert wanted to bring fresh water into the priory buildings. Using lead pipes and a sophisticated system, they did just that from a well near the cathedral, allowing the monks to regularly bathe. The Great Cloisters linked up many areas of the monastery. Spend time looking up at the carvings and shields that cover all areas of the ceiling. A door off the cloisters leads you to the largest chapter house in England. It's a separate building. It would have been used by the monks to assemble daily to discuss day-to-day activities and read a chapter from their Benedictine rule. So I think once they remove all the scaffolding, the cathedral is going to be absolutely amazing again. Really done a good job. It's taken a long time to get it back to such a good order as it will be later this year. We're now heading to St Martin's Church, so we'll do that and see the oldest church in England. It's about a 15-minute walk out of the city walls to the church. You will be passing the St Augustine Abbey on your way, and you can poke your head in the entrance and have a quick look without paying. Of course, you can visit as well. Head up North Holmes Road and the church will be in front of you. The sign says that in fact the church is the oldest in the English-speaking world, as well as the oldest parish church still in continuous use in England. First built in the Roman times in 597 AD when Augustine arrived, it was the private chapel of Christian Queen Bertha of Kent. St Augustine and his companions worshipped at the church until King Ethelbert granted him the land for the world-famous abbey and cathedral. Well, we hope you've enjoyed our tour of the cathedral and St Martin's Church. If you haven't seen our other video on the fascinating history and attractions here in Canterbury, then do click on the link at the end and carry on watching. We would love you to hit subscribe as well as give us a like. Thanks for watching and see you again.